The prayer of the blind man echoes through the Christian centuries, both in our Kyrie and in the prayer of the heart in the East. As you know, they are keen on placing themselves in this attitude of nothingness and emptiness before the majesty of God, specifically the Son of God. And many a time throughout the day, an Eastern monk and often a lay person will repeat the Jesus prayer. It is our truth. And indeed, we are all blind. Although the mind is still able, after the fall, to perceive truth, it is wounded by passion, and often its reason goes awry because of passion. We need to see things as God sees them. We need to know how to dialogue without in any way getting into passion. Passion brings out the worst in the human being, and many a serene relationship can be devastated in a moment of passion. Have you ever thought what it must be like to be blind? There are two categories of blind: those born such and those who become such. Interiorly, the person born blind will not have the same interior vision, for he has not seen objects. But they see things in their own way, and they have an awareness of things which surpasses ours. I know that because I had a blind friend in college. We had to read to him. He was able to read Braille, but it wasn't enough. He had a fantastic memory, and he could know instantly who was there after one syllable. He also told me how, when walking along, he would hear a lamppost coming. They have developed their other senses far more than we have. Imagine a blind person dying. What happens? We know what happens from the cases of blind people who have died and through medical skill have been called back to life. They are shocked. Do you know why? At the moment of death, their soul is no longer dependent on the senses of the body. So what happens? For the first time they see. They see and they can't believe it. Firstly, they see their own body. And then, depending on the length of the experience, they start to see other things. But then, if they're not called back, they see the other side, as we all will. And there, the vision is total. There is no more illusion. This week, I had yet again the testimony of 3 young people of 16, all in the same vicinity, and one influencing the other, who had chosen to end their life at 16 here in Ireland. What would they have seen 1 second later? 16 years out of perhaps 90. Apparently, girls see the children they would have had. They also see the pain they leave behind them. And that pain we're all also causing to each other, as we are reminded of in the first reading. We have the two sides of this teaching on charity. Charity does not and charity does It's completely balanced. So let's look at the two sides. Envy, jealousy. Beware, my lord, of jealousy. It is the green-eyed monster that mocks the one it feeds on. And if one looks around, it's the motive force of much human dysfunctional behavior. It's secret and it's subtle, but you can see it in its effects. If we love a person, we rejoice in that person's advancement. It does not devise evil. How much of our interior life is spent with bad thoughts? Are we dialoguing with ourselves when alone? Listen to the dialogue in your head. Is it good or bad? It's your truth coming out. It is not ambitious. Desire is the source of much pain in people in this world. Who cares what score we reach? The score, my friends, is seen in the beyond, and we score on charity. Now, the good things. Charity is patient. The word patient comes from the root of suffering. The passion is the suffering of the Lord. It's the same root. Patire. And each one is called upon, while in this life, to offer up the pain inbuilt. Now, Lent is approaching and will invent many wonderful pains. And then watch what will happen. We'll miss the merit of the pain that comes. There's far more merit in using well the unwanted pain than choosing our own. Remember that next time in Lent you do a holy fast and then explode. There is this sequel showing that Paul indicates that charity is humble, the opposite of the sin of Satan. Humility also is patient and long-suffering. Why? As he points out, it understands and pardons everything. Tout savoir, c'est tout pardonner. To know all is to forgive all. We don't know all, and therefore we tend to jump in with our own judgment. But each one is battling with his own internal sphere. Charity never fails. In other words, hope will have done its job in the beyond, and so will faith. But the mode of charity will carry on. Think of Sainte Thérèse of Lisieux. I will pass my heaven doing good on earth. We recently had a similar testimony from our friend we buried the other day, or by now the other month, in Navan. A glorious death, and she promised that afterwards she would not forget us, and we've had evidence of that within our family circuit. Things happen when we actually invoke her. That's interesting. We're not forgotten. This charity carries on. Do you think a mother will forget her children? She carries that faculty forever. The memory lives on. That's why, when we're close to a person who's dying, we're very close to heaven. I remember when my novice master was dying in France, and I was being told that by the monastery where I was actually in Rome at the time, and I was in trouble, there were problems not getting ordained and all the rest of it, and I said to them, via the one who was looking after him, Dom Augustin, please tell Don Simeon that Frère David wants to be ordained. So he came and had a moment of lucidity before dying, Don Simeon, and he beamed. And Don Augustin said it was his last pastoral joy. And very soon after that, I was ordained and all the obstacles were removed. Charity lives on! And I remember how looking into his eyes, I thought of that one expression that was put in print after the death of the founder, St. Bruno in those days, the Carthusians. Oh goodness, oh bonitas, the blue eyes of charity. With regard to this, I want to leave you with one clue. I mentioned charity in the specifically monastic life, and I mention it now in the specifically marital life, because they're not that different. The modalities are different, yes, they have to be. But essentially, it's the art of creating joy. Quality life. It's made of thinking of the effects of my words and of my actions. We don't feel the pain, do we, when we get used to people? They're always there. We take them for granted. Do you think they don't feel the pain? Now we must think twice before ever allowing one word to come out of our mouth which we don't want to hear again on Judgment Day. The echoes linger on, and words have a massive effect, for good or for bad. The easiest way to bring back joy into a tense situation, and they're always there in our life, is through the lightness of the sense of humour. Why? It doesn't draw attention to the problem and make it more tense. It indirectly heals by bringing in a natural relaxation and a relativization of the maximum. Think of that. In the specifically enclosed life, it can be very hard. Why? We always have, until death, the same people in a small area. We know everything about them, and we know how they react, and conversation runs out. It's the same in a family to some extent. But I remember how it was this element, and this element above all, which healed the pain, which could be sometimes great. I told you before, but I'll just tell you again. Those who've heard it, just fast forward and wait till the end. It's the kind of thing that brought joy into a heavy day. And life is made of heavy days, unless we bring that in. It was the monastery cat. There we were, waiting for the signal to go into choir. You know how it's done when it's waiting in the statue area with one's hood up, waiting for the prior's signal. There we were, and suddenly we hear this noise. Meow. We were all, of course, in great solemn prayer, waiting for the signal to go out into choir. It got louder. So the two grand cantors did not particularly want to have competition in the office of Compline. So at a certain point, the two of them took down their hoods, and we heard this. And they came back and put their hoods back up again and started Compline. As though nothing had happened. Do you think that didn't heal the tension in the community? Nunc dimittis ton Simeon, notre cher père maître à Célignac. Dors, dors, ami, dors, père de mon cœur, dans ce sommeil attendu que tes yeux ne trouvaient guère ici. Anointed Goodbye, sweet smile, beam onward 'neath the grave, and dream of little joys that once thee drew. Recall upon an aeon what ours gave, a little while ere on for air they flew. And from thy rest recall the blessed short day that came and went, ere we e'er thought we'd go so quickly on, upon a germ that lay so calmly in our midst, the door to show. O travel of a journey, no return or ticket of homecoming hold we here, but only onward miles, or miles we learn, not in a page of knowing, holding near, but in a land where no hand evermore shall touch the hand that waved thee from the shore.